Welcome to the Leading Hope Podcast with Kevin Jack. Your influence will lead people somewhere, lead them towards hope. Everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.
Welcome to Leading Hope with Kevin Jack. I'm your host, VJ Williams, here with my friend and pastor, Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your day to become a better leader. We release a new episode every Wednesday, so we'd love for you to share on social media and bring others along with us on this journey of becoming a better leader. Visit leadinghope.online to get updates and find out more about the Leading Hope community. If you're new to the podcast today or haven't yet subscribed, it means the world to us if you did that now. Also post about it, rate and review. You will not believe how that helps get this podcast in the hands of so many more leaders just like you. And today it is our end of the year wrap episode 6-1. It's 6-1, man.
6-1.
It's 6-1. End of the year.
Another, this is the first whole year we've done this.
It is.
Look at that.
Yeah, man. It's in that, and the title says it all.
All of the Wednesdays.
Yes, all of the Wednesdays are done. Well, there's no more Wednesdays for 2020.
That's exactly right.
Awesome.
You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this episode, I hope it comes across as pretty simple in concept. I want to talk about how you do an end of the year wrap up, just kind of like a review at the end of the year, but also even maybe more important than that, to make a case for why you should do an end of the year wrap up, why you should actually do something at the end of the year that reflects on the previous year and that looks ahead to the next year. And I kind of built this out. I want this to be, I'll describe it like this. This is a something, not an everything. So there's some people who I know they do, not new, they're not gone, that they'll do 2 or 3 day retreats, stuff like that. I've got another friend, him and his wife will go off for a week and do an end of the year review and do goal setting and all this other stuff. That's not this, because here's my guess is that if you're already doing that, then you like what you have and you're good to go with what you're already doing. So I don't want this to be like a massive thing. You've got to find a cabin in the woods and cook your own meat and everything like that's not, although just to be clear, cooking your own meat would be nothing. I was trying to make it sound something woodsman-y and then realize nope, we're going to do that later today. So that means nothing. So this is just hey, if you don't do anything, that's what this is for. So 2 reasons why you should. Why I think it's so important that you do an end of the year wrap up. One is just emotional baggage, maybe is the easiest way to describe it. And part of that emotional baggage, part of that also intellectual baggage. And so what researchers have found is that it's incredibly important for us to take breaks throughout the day. And I know some of you hear that and you're like, done.
Yeah.
Need no more convincing.
I'm in.
I need no more data or evidence. I've got it.
Podcast over.
But one of the important pieces of taking breaks throughout the day is they say it's important to take breaks, especially when you're switching projects, because you'll just have intellectual carriers, hanger-oners from the previous project that will all of a sudden overlap into the new project. And so this is why our freshest thinking happens in the morning, because at night, during our REM sleep, is our chance for our brain to get this massive reset so we can start fresh. And so just doing that, so part of that is a side point of saying, hey, when you're switching projects, you shouldn't necessarily, if it's intellectually heavy, you shouldn't just jump from thing to thing. You should find a way to create more of a blank slate within your brain, take a walk, do something, eat something, do something to kind of create that newness. And that also can happen within years. And so if you get to the end of the year and there is nothing that is that, hey, we're gonna wipe the marker board clean. You may feel like you're starting fresh in 2021, but you're not. You're doing it with all the intellectual hanger-oners. That's a scientific term, just to be clear here, hanger-oners from the previous year. This is a silly episode. I just need to acknowledge that.
You're in your mode, man.
I am in rare form at the end
Christmas
of 2020.
was yesterday.
Yeah. So just to say, hey, I want you to be able to start the year with a fresh start. I want you to be able to start the year actually feeling refreshed. And so there's something that needs to happen in order for that to take place. The other reason why I think this is so important is the most common thing that people do when it comes to the end of the year or the start of a new year is setting goals. And I believe in goal setting, and I set goals every year. But I think that there's things that are far more important than goal setting, and that is reflecting on what you've learned and setting intentions for the next year. Like, not necessarily this is what I'm going to accomplish, but this is almost thematic for the next year. This is the kind of year I want this year to be. And the only thing we ever get fed when it comes to a new year is, oh, you need to set goals. And I think what happens is, for the majority of people that I talk to, is they'll do one of two things. They'll either set a goal and fail and then never set a goal again, or they'll set all these goals, fail, and then the next year set wildly different goals because they felt like a failure because they don't want to do anything in line with the previous goals. And I just have the sense of like, man, that's a whole bunch of activity without any sense of clarity as to where you're headed and the kind of life you want to build. And so goal setting is important, but goal setting needs a foundation to be set upon. And you can, if you have the foundation, you may want to add goals to it, but I at least want to give you that foundation. So that's kind of my case. So here's how you do the end of the year wrap. Okay. If I give you kind of some specifics on it, this doesn't have to be more than 10 minutes. And I think it's important enough that you should listen to a 20-minute podcast on how to do this to spend 10 minutes to do this end of the year. It could be an hour. It could be 2 hours, but honestly, it could be as short as 10 minutes to just gain some clarity and some perspective. So find some time, 10 minutes, if that's all you need. And I think you need to ask yourself 3 questions, okay? Just 3 questions to get that intellectual and emotional reset, create that feeling of freshness, and give yourself a foundation for the new year. So I'm going to give you all 3 questions at first, and then we're going to walk through them bit by bit and unpack them just a little bit. Question 1, what was a win? Question 2, what did I learn? And question 3, what will I do different? What was a win? What did I learn? And what will I do different? And so the first question, what was a win? One of the things that I am so dialed into at this point in time in my life is this idea that when we focus on our problems, all we actually do is we duplicate our problems. The idea behind appreciative inquiry is change follows focus. What you focus on, you will create more of. And so if you focus on your problems, you will actually magnify your problems in your life. So you start with, what was a win? What were the emotional highs? What were the times you felt like a success? What were the times that you were supposed to do? And by identifying them, you're able to repeat them. And so this is kind of how I like it, is what you need to do with yourself. Is I had a basketball coach growing up that he wouldn't just stop to yell at us when we were doing something wrong, which is just kind of what coaches are infamous for. Stop in the middle of the play.
Yep.
Is say, what are you doing?
Yep.
You have your head screwed on backwards.
Yeah.
but
or your head somewhere else.
Yeah, but that's not this podcast. But we had a coach that he would stop practice to tell us when we were doing it right. He was like, hold up. That was perfect. Mm-hmm. And that was incredibly important. Like, it really was, because all of a sudden we went, oh, we're not just avoiding failure. This is what success looks like. And you need to do that for yourself. You need to actually pause and go, when did I crush it? What was a win this last year? What did I get right? So after you ask what was a win, second question, what did I learn? Let me tell you how not to do this. When you sit down and go, what did I learn? You should not go, well, I learned I can't trust them. Well, I learned they're an idiot. I learned those people shouldn't be. No, this is like, it's self-focused, not others focused. Okay. And it's okay to say, hey, these are the kind of relationships I should be in, but don't use this as a blame fest for everyone around you and what they should have learned. Have some self-reflection here on it. So I've got kind of 2 categories I look at, and it's not important that you ask both, but if it's helpful for you. First one, what'd you learn about yourself? maybe your personality, your strengths, what you're interested in, where your passion is. And then the second question is, what wisdom did you gain? So you go, what did I learn? Hey, what did I learn about me uniquely, individually? And then what did I learn about life as a whole from the things that I've experienced this past year? And you'll think back through some events and some key moments, maybe even back through those wins. That's why it's important that that question goes first. And hey, this is what I learned. And then the third question is simple. It's this: what will I do different? Now, this is the one note I want to make. At no point in time am I asking, where did I lose? Okay. I don't think that is an important question to ask. Through the lessons you learned and through the wins that you had, you will gain positive momentum moving forward. Asking what did I learn is completely sufficient instead of asking, where did I lose? So, what will I do different? You are naturally taking the wins and lessons and using them to help shape a better future. And so this last question, the goal of it is to be future focused. When I talk about like setting intentions for the next year, that's what you're doing. You're saying, hey, this is what I intend to do coming up this next year. Now, if you're a goal setter, throw these goals on top of that. But don't start with goals. Don't start with what you want to accomplish. Acknowledge first the type of future that you're seeking to create in light of where you've already won and what you've already learned over this past years. And so I just want to just kind of reiterate this. This could be a couple hours, but it really could just be 10 minutes. And I think if you'd sit down for 10 minutes with a pad of paper, write out the questions, jot down a couple bullet points, I think you'll be far more fresh and far more focused coming into 2021.
I love it. That's a great note for everyone to start something, do something.
Yeah.
I like that you placed that there at the end. I was reading something the other day about, and this is kind of semantics, so take it with that kind of grain of salt. But, they said at the end of the year, they do like a guides list, not goals, but guides. So it's kind of the same concept at the end of the day. But whether you're doing goals or guides, I love that you.
So what do they mean by guides?
So just these are the things that I must put in place, almost like the rhythms that we talked about earlier in the year.
Oh, got it.
So they just are creating those rhythms at the beginning of the year. They reflect, but back to the point is that you said you don't start with the guides or the goals. You start with the reflection. Yeah. And you talked about not talking about where did I lose. What's the difference between where did I lose and what did I get wrong?
Oh, by asking, what did I learn?
Yeah.
Because I never even want to ask, what did I get wrong? Okay. I want to say, what did I learn? Asking what did I learn by its very nature has a positive momentum to it.
Good.
Because it's a lesson gained. And so I'm moving forward in it. Just asking, where do I lose? Creates negative energy within your own life.
Yeah.
And it makes me sound this in the around like I'm this like super spiritual, like, oh, you need to cultivate all the positive energy you possibly can.
If you're watching on YouTube right now, that was fun.
But let's just acknowledge what it would do in your life. If you just kept asking, where did I lose? You would just sit in self-loathing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that for me.
Yeah. So that's the positive nature of it, right? It's what did I learn? Acknowledging that because I'm learning, that means I didn't already know it.
Yes.
I mean, it's an obvious statement, but that's the point of learning. It's something you didn't actually know. And so it's not really what you didn't lose or what you lost. It's what you're going to learn because of what happened.
Absolutely.
And that's the positive thing about 2020, right? Is, hey, these are the things where our minds were. These are the things we looked at. This is what we placated in different situations. But now in 2021, we have that knowledge. Yeah. You're going to learn from it. I love that. I think that's great. You said it can take 2 hours or you can take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Can you really do it in 10 minutes?
I could.
You could. Can the average guy do it in 10 minutes?
So let's say it like this. I think, and I don't mean this to be highly negative, self-reflection is a skill.
Yeah.
Like, people are not naturally self-aware.
Yeah.
And people do not naturally have the ability, like, ingrained in them to take an observance and account of all the things that have happened, draw it together in order to propel them forward. And so I think for some people going through wins, if you've never done this,
Yes.
it won't take you 2 hours because you don't have that much that your brain has made note of.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
so I don't want someone to feel like, man, I've never done something before. I've got to go off and do a 3-day retreat. Because the
Right.
reality is you could do a 3-day retreat and you'll only get 10 minutes of work done.
Right.
Because you've never done this before.
Yeah. I know that you said take out a pad and pencil and start writing down some things. I think that's a great place to start. If you've never done this before, I think that's an absolute great place to start.
Yeah.
If they want to know exactly what Kevin Jack is going to do, run them through a couple of things that you're going to actually do in this process for your end of the year wrap up.
For me, how I actually go through it.
What you're going to do, just a top level, not detailed.
Yeah.
Just
I mean, honestly, there's
environment.
okay. In light of this.
Yes.
So here's the hard thing. If I could just be like, there's some days that I've done 3 days away.
Yeah.
Or some years that I've done 3 days away and gone off and done that. And that was for me, that was a time, it was reflection, but it was also work and a lot of planning over the next year and mapping different things out, work and personal life. And that's been massively helpful at times. This year, I will probably take a day. And what I'll do is I'll spend some time. So this is a little bit longer than how I have it outlined here, but I'll spend some time reviewing the calendar as a whole.
Yeah.
And trying to just go through. I've got some notes within some notebooks, but to go through, hey, was I emotionally, spiritually at some of these different points to identify wins. So I'll backtrack through the calendar within there. Then I'll keep the calendar up and walk through those different pieces of, hey, what did I learn? I'll also walk through different pieces and kind of take an account of different relationships.
Oh, that's great.
And so I can walk through and just go, hey, my spouse, my kids, my outer family, my close friends, my work friends, like all these other things. I'll take account of all the different relationships. And so I want to say it is like, I still use the framework of the 3 questions.
Yeah.
It's just far more robust.
Right.
In ensuring that I hit every area.
And that's something that you build over time. So this is a great. So I'm thinking through what you just said on relationships is great. If you're a husband, wife, listen to the podcast, this is a great thing, a great exercise to do at the end of the year, getting ready for the new year. I think anyone it could benefit from that.
And something that I've learned on the relationship side is I used to just have a category of kids. And then I learned not all my kids are not the same. Yeah. And so I actually named out each one individually. But that was important for me to understand. I don't have a general relationship with all of my children. I have a specific relationship with each one.
Yeah, that's fantastic. One other question I want to ask. So this is the way that we're looking at this particular episode is individualistic, but in team environments, is this something that teams can adopt as well?
Well, I'll be honest with it. We actually kind of did it with our team this past Monday.
Yeah.
They didn't realize that's what we were doing.
Right.
But we just went through and I asked different questions because I kind of wanted to slide it under the surface.
Sure.
But I asked the team, I said, hey, where are we now? Like, let's just make a note. If we're on a trip, it says you've got this many miles to go.
Yeah.
Where are we?
Yeah.
What's going really well right now? What have we learned recently? And then the last question I asked was before I could really set that intention to say, is there anything that we're doing now or where we're headed that is confusing to you that I can help clarify in some way?
Yeah.
So that was our way. We did it as a team in a really informal environment.
Yeah.
But I didn't want them to wrap around without having a chance to at least speak to what's going on.
But and I think that's great. I think it doesn't matter what team you're on, or even like if a small group. Look at your small group for the year. You know what I mean? These are great questions to ask to figure out where you're going. I mean, I think this is such an easy way to actually set up your new year. It's almost foolproof. Like, here are the ways to start your new year. 3 simple questions. Ask them, write them down, get out your pad, and do it. And it's going to be 10 minutes or less.
I want people to just understand, like, it's not important that you do the exact right template.
Right.
It's important that you do something.
Yeah.
And so I just want to give you, if you don't know where to start, this is a something. And it's a really good something to start with.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to put this, make sure we get these notes in the episode. So if anyone's listening that wants that information, we'll make sure that that's all in there. What do you want to wrap up this into? 2020, goodbye.
That's it.
It's over for 2020. The Leading Home Podcast, episode 61, end of the year wrap up, Kevin. What do you want them to know?
Man, I just want people to know, enter this next year with momentum.
Yeah.
And I know like that it has nothing to do with the content that we covered on this episode, but enter this next year with momentum. Enter this next year with a sense of purpose that God's going to do something in your life and that something powerful is going to happen.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you're new to the podcast or haven't yet subscribed, it would mean the world to us if you did that. Also, post about it, rate and review, or both. You won't believe how that gets the hands of this podcast into leaders just like you. And we love hearing your stories, how the podcast is working in your life and business. If you have a story, visit leadinghope.online and send that to us. We'd love to hear from you. Hey, Happy New Year. Next time we see you, it will be 2021. God bless you guys. And remember, everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count.